Now is the time to rethink the way we work and occupy spaces. Business owners are asking themselves new questions like, does my current office setup give me the flexibility I need to provide for the ever-changing needs of my business and employees? Can I offer my employees the ability to work near home? Can I significantly reduce operating costs by moving towards a distributed team model? As the leading flexible office solutions provider in the Philippines, KMC Solutions is able to provide convenient and adaptable options to enable distributed teams and provide work-near-home benefits to your team. The KMC Passport is a multifunctional, flexible workspace solution that allows you and your employees to work in any of KMC's 24 locations. With 4 customizable packages tailor-fitted to the adaptable needs of your business: KMC Passport, HQ Plus Hub, Virtual Office Plus Hub, HQ Plus Hub Plus Home, affectionately known as Triple H. Maybe you already have an office, but now want to give your employees the freedom to work closer to their home. The KMC Passport will give your employees unrestricted access to freely utilize our hot desks across 24 co-working hubs located around Metro Manila, Cebu, Clark, and Iloilo. With the peace of mind of our lightning-fast, never-go-down network with up to 1.5 gigabits per second throughput. Are you still utilizing your current office space at full capacity? If not, perhaps it's time to move your core operations to one of our fully serviced, move-in ready, flexible private offices and pair it with one of our KMC Passports. With our HQ Plus Hub option, you get the best of both worlds: a fully managed, secure private office plus access to KMC's vast network of co-working spaces across the country. Instantly set up your HQ while giving your workforce the power to choose where to work. Or maybe you're looking to go fully remote, but still need an address for business registration. The Virtual Office Plus Hub option is perfect for when you don't need an HQ. With our suite of virtual office services, you can make use of our prestigious KMC business addresses and have us handle your business registration for you with the added bonus of a KMC Passport that gives them access to our co-working spaces when they need it. Then again, why not have it all with Triple H, HQ Plus Hub Plus Home, our all-in-one blended model that can do it all. HQ, for fully furnished private office spaces for your main base of operations. Hub, for utilizing KMC's Passport to get to the co-working hub closest to you. And finally, Home, delivering you the ideal workspace setup coupled with business-grade internet right at your employee's home. There's a more efficient way to occupy spaces. Give you and your employees true flexibility and ensure productivity with no downtime with the new KMC Passport. Reach out to us for a free consultation to learn how you can flexibly work with our KMC Passport solutions.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Patricia Mirasol, and I'm a multimedia reporter for BusinessWorld. COVID-19 has been a game changer for the office and the way we work. Working from home or teleworking has ushered in a new era of inclusivity, connectedness, and productivity. A lot of us are now used to working virtually and wish to continue this remote or flexible work arrangement moving forward. And yet a lot of us are also raring to go back to the physical office for better work performance and a greater sense of community. Today, BusinessWorld Insights, together with KMC Solutions, is hosting this exclusive webinar entitled, Should We Return to the Office? A Conversation on the Future of Work. We will be tackling how the COVID-19 pandemic and the current work setup is affecting businesses, the economy, the workspace industry, and the office sector. We will also touch on the pros and cons of reporting back to the physical office, sustaining a remote work setup, the factors influencing future work trends, as well as the steps businesses need to take in order to ensure a safe and engaging work environment for their workforce, wherever they may be. Joining us today are 4 speakers. Allow me to introduce them now. Our first speaker is Attorney Alex Cabrera. Attorney Alexander B. Cabrera is a certified public accountant, lawyer, and chairman and senior partner of PricewaterhouseCoopers Philippines since 2013. He specializes in tax planning, business restructuring and reorganizations, and integrated tax, legal, and accounting advice. He is also a board member in PwC's Southeast Asia Regional Consulting Practice and is the managing partner of Cabrera and Company. Apart from this, Mr. Cabrera is the chairman of the Integrity Initiative Incorporated and the Philippine Institute of Certified Public Accountants Taxation and Legislation Committee. Welcome, Mr. Cabrera.
Thank you very much, Pat. Good morning to all our attendees, and good morning also to all my fellow speakers. Well, Pat, on this topic that we have today, when the pandemic started and all of us started working from home, we thought that that working from home was a luxury because before the pandemic, we wouldn't allow a work from home policy, for fear of not being able to serve our clients well or not being able to do our jobs that productively if we were at home. I guess in our case, when the pandemic struck, we didn't realize that we were, as ready as we can be technologically because we were firing on all cylinders. We served all our clients digitally. We had the right tools, so it was okay until we felt that really working in the office is really the luxury. Because if I can pinpoint the single most critical issue on the work from home environment, it is really mental wellness. The mental wellness of our people were really affected. When you work from home, even if you don't need to travel to the office and you don't lose all that time traveling to the office or going to meetings, there is so much lonesomeness that you can feel because you're working there and you even if you have support virtually you would still feel so alone working there and you're not able to have your usual outlets like going to shops or talking to your peers like take the case of the firm such as ours. One thing stolen from our people is really the physical connection. The people go to this kind of profession, to this kind of practice, and one of the reasons there is they enjoy it. From class, going to the office, it's like you're still with your classmates and working happily, exchanging banter and jokes every now and then, keeping everything professional while learning with each other. That was stolen from the millennial employees when pandemic struck, and it resulted to I would say mental wellness issues and even a bigger rate of turnover. It's not because they're not so happy about their work. It's just that they don't know what could make them happy anymore because things are feels like they're doing everything by their lonesome. And even their family members wouldn't be that much supportive because they would feel they're working all the time and maybe they don't have time for their families because they're always working at their desks. The PwC conducted a little survey internally, and people feel that while there are still collaborations going on, there's a bit of decrease in collaboration by as much as 35 to 40%. And innovation also deteriorated by around 30%. And while we feel we're productive, there's a bit of duplication of work increasing by as much as, not much, but 10%. I guess the biggest loser really is the culture building. And culture deteriorated, they believe, to as much as 40%. See, all this is hitting the company in this work from home environment. And therefore, there's really only one solution. It's not going back to where we were. It's really going to a hybrid model. And if we're all vaccinated and to the extent that we can do it safely, the hybrid model is really the way to go forward. Uh, Before the pandemic, when we said people can't work at home, it's not right for business, for productivity. Well, that was wrong. That was wrong, and certainly the pandemic taught us that that was wrong. So if we say that the work from home is the correct environment, that will also be wrong, even more wrong, I would say. The hybrid model is the only model that can work forward. By July 1, for instance, we will be decreasing our lease offices by as much as 35 to 40%. You know, because today, even when we are allowed by our quarantine rules to go to the office, only 5 to 10% of our people at most would go to the office. Maybe we're lucky to have an average of 5%. And I guess the people are used to working at home, and employers and bosses, they need to step in and control this because they don't know the harm it's doing until the turnover happens, until the unhappiness steps in, until depression steps in, until this lack of fulfillment steps in, because there is no fulfillment such as the fulfillment coming from the interaction with your peers, personal connection, really sharing your feelings as you work. And this is something that everyone should experience. This is something that should not be stolen from them. When we bring our people back to the office, there's also one thing that we should consider very importantly, and that is getting back in better shape compared to where we were pre-pandemic. For instance, the PwC, our local firm as part of the PwC network, is joining the Net Zero initiative that by 2030 we will cut our carbon emissions by half. And that will be a combination of new methods, cleaner energy, of course, but mostly behavior on the part of our people. Even business models, for instance, because the greatest source of carbon emission, or the biggest source of carbon emission, really, in our business is foreign travel. And foreign travels, they happen really, they don't get checked. You know, they happen a lot. And now that foreign travel is reduced, and we can immediately see, the impact on our environment. Foreign travel and the accommodation that goes along with it, the use of paper. If we can go for renewable energy resources, then when we are able to reduce our carbon emission by half, then maybe we can work on carbon capture, like investing in these farms that grow trees free. And we can compute the carbon capture resulting from these additional trees that we've invested in. It's not only about getting back to the office, it's actually getting back to the office in a better way. Thank you, everyone. See you later.
Thank you, Attorney Cabrera. Your points on mental wellness and collaboration really resonated. And I agree with you that it's about getting back to the office in a better way. Our next speaker is Mr. Bienvenido Nonoy Oplas Jr. Bienvenido Nonoy Oplas Jr. is the founder and president of Minimal Government Thinkers, a free market think tank in Manila. He's also had the column My Cup of Liberty in Business World since April 2015. Mr. Oplas is the author of two books, Health Choices and Responsibilities in 2011 and Liberalism, Rule of Law, and Civil Society in 2014. In 2013, he was among the 13 government and civil society leaders who were granted the Freedom Flame Awards 2013 by the FNF Philippine office. Welcome, Mr. Oplas.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you, Business World. Can I have my slide, please? Upload. Yes, I have a 9-slide presentation for this. No, so I will. So the question is, should we return to the office? And my answer is yes. We should return to the office because work from home has constraints. 6 outlines. No? The global impact of the lockdowns, the Philippine industry impact of the lockdown, the expenditure impact of the lockdown in the Philippines, and then among the guide questions for our speakers is what is our experience in work from home? Since Minimal Government Thinkers is a very small think tank, I asked many friends. I have many friends, and I got nine response. You know? So Next is how to help the employees stay productive, and what is the future of remote or flexible work. I have other slides, but it will be shown maybe, hopefully, maybe later in the annex. Next, in the question or open forum. Okay, the global impact of lockdowns. This data for 2019, 2020, and first quarter 2021. I surveyed the 50 largest economies in the world in 2020, and of the top 50, the Philippines number 32 in terms of GDP size. Philippines was the worst performer in the world and the worst performer in Asia. Okay, so that's bad news. Well, overall global lockdown globally has affected many countries, but the Philippines in particular because we're the worst performer in Asia. Now, in the first quarter 2021, out of the 50, 34 countries so far have reported their first quarter, and the Philippines again is the fourth worst performer, and in Asia is again the worst performer in Asia. So lockdown is really ugly. Next. How about what particular sectors in the Philippines were particularly affected by the lockdown? The answer is one, construction industry. We were adversely affected because of the mobility restrictions and checkpoints between provincial and city boundaries. So the transportation of construction materials and construction workers are affected. Next, was affected are those that involve customer relations, hotels and restaurants, malls and office residential condos, public transportation, especially provincial buses. So you can see the decline is double digit for the accommodation and food storage activities as well as transportation. Next. How about the expenditure side? Because GDP is measured in the demand side as well as in the supply side or in the industry side. On the demand side, expenditure side, GDP is composed of household consumption plus private investment plus government consumption plus net of exports and imports. Household consumption is 72% of the GDP and contracted minus 8% in 2020 and minus 4.8% in 2021. If you have 72% of the GDP contracting, then the whole GDP is really pulled down. Next is private investment, which is about one-fourth of GDP and contracted big time also. Minus 34% in 2020 and minus 80% in first quarter of this year. Many people believe that such kind of declines in household consumption and investment can be compensated by bigger government spending. There was indeed double digit growth in government spending, but it's not enough because government size as share of GDP is small, both national government and local government. So in fact, we can possibly say that it's possible that high government expenditure may have actually contributed to worsening of the overall GDP contraction. Next. So now back to the questions. What are the advantages and disadvantages of working in a physical setup versus working remotely? So I have question to about 10 or 11 friends, and 9 of them responded. Out of the 9, only 2 agreed to give their names and now consult management services through my friend Ozone Sansa, as well as Protege Communications. The others, they want to remain private. The advantage for Node Consult, for instance, is that advantage, no? Anyway, it's there, so I will not read them one by one. And so the advantage generally is that it's easier. You don't have to wake up early and enjoy traffic. The disadvantage, among the most common, there is low internet connectivity by the employees. In particular, I want to say the case of the law office. The delivery justice at its worst. The number of court hearings in 2020 were down 80 to 90% last year. And for the auditing firm, among the somehow unique is that the blackouts in some provinces, like say in the Bicol region or in the northern Mindanao and northern Luzon, like we don't have blackouts in Metro Manila, but in other provinces. So we have blackout. It affects the work. Second, because employees work at home, they are not aircon, unlike in offices. there is a short lifespan of laptops, and therefore the office has to buy new laptops for the employees, which again increase the cost of operation. Next. The other is from an energy company. Yes, it's involved in electricity distribution. Yeah, they have many virtual tools like Microsoft Teams, Zoom, StreamYard, Facebook Live, etc. And they think that there is a work from home allowed them to have longer and higher productivity. For the food retail chain, yeah, and popcorn, yes, and savings bank. By the way, my source of the savings bank is me, just Joe Fernandez. I won't mention her bank, but she has been an HR professional for many years. I think this is her third bank already, and she's really an expert, hands-on on HR issues. And then another hotel with Oplan Kalinga. Before their company, the main clients are corporate clients like people who don't want to work at home, so they stay full time in the hotel. But now they are forced to have a contract with ITF to care with returning OFWs. Next. Next question is how to help the employees stay productive and engaged. So I shortened them, no? So for Norconsult, safety protocols, and I think that one thing here is that since they do not want to expose their employees to public transport, they have to pick up the employees from as far as Laguna and Cavite and bring them to Ortigas and bring them back again. So the cost of transport is really expensive. Fuel, overtime. Sometimes they have to rent extra car. For many others, the way to help the employees to encourage them is through vaccination. So a lot of people, a lot of the companies are saying that. Yes. Next. What is the future of remote or flexible work? So this is what companies think what will be the future for them. For Norconsult, they plan before they have 1 day a week. Now, 4 days a week. After the pandemic, they plan to do it 2 days. Yes, frontliners, auditing firm, more intensive. Yes. For the they say that stop to be a story and only minimal government guardrails to guide work environment to foster SMEs, enterprising individuals to adapt quickly. And the last, last. For savings bank, most banks have started closing their branches actually, and some big banks want to go back to the old normal, but it will be really depend on the degree of digitalization. My main key takeaway here is that ultimately it will be the companies and the individuals themselves who will decide whether they should go back to work, they have the confidence to go back to work or not. Well, they have three considerations. One is if they believe in natural herd immunity, which I do. Second, if they have been fully vaccinated, and third is they have effective prophylaxis or or early treatment medicines like ivermectin. And any of those three we can give confidence to people and companies to bring back to go back to the office. But bottom line is, if people and companies decide they should go back to the office, governments should remove all those restrictions. We have been almost 15 months now of indefinite, draconian, almost dictatorial lockdowns. In fact, the worst and longest lockdown in the whole world. That's from the Google mobility reports. And so therefore, governments should lift the lockdown. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing those numbers about the Philippine economy, Mr. Oplas, as well as your takeaways on the lockdown. Our next speaker is Ms. Eileen Omentado. Ms. Eileen Omentado is the people lead of Mondelez Philippines. She is a progressive human resources leader with more than 16 years of experience in strategic business partnering, two diverse leaders in scaled growth and startup stage operating companies, and is able to navigate complex organizational transformation to deliver value and positive business impact through people and teams. Ms. Aumentado previously served as interim head of HR at Heineken Malaysia Berhad, as head of HR for AB Heineken Philippines, and as part of the Unilever HR team in the Philippines, Singapore, Southeast Asia, and Australasia for 14 years. Welcome, Ms. Aumentado.
Hello and good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be part of this conversation around the future of work and answering the question, should we return to the office? So I'm new in Mondelez. It's actually my second week. So I would want to give also, tribute and honor to the work that, the team has done in terms of navigating, the crisis and ensuring that, the well-being and safety of our people is a priority. So let me share, some few slides to, for the audience to get to know Mondelez as an organization and what we have done, so far in terms of ensuring that at the heart of what we do as, as an organization is all about business continuity. And I guess that's really the key principle of, the workplace, not just of now, but also of the future. So, yep. So. Let me take you through about Mondelez and how we create that winning growth culture at the time of pandemic. Yeah. So about our company, so we are probably not yet known as Mondelez, but most of you would know and love our brands. We've been in the Philippines for the last 58 years, starting as Kraft, and later on it was renamed as Mondelez. So it's a very well-loved brand by our consumers. It's available in your pantry. It's what you eat, when you have gatherings together. So we're present in snacking. As our business, you can see here Cheese Whiz, Tang, Tiger Crackers, Cadbury, Toblerone, and many others. Yeah. Next slide. So when you talk about the future of work, even before the pandemic, back in 2017, there were already policies in place in terms of taking care of our people. And these are just some of the well-being programs that have started as early as 2017. So pretty much the organization is ahead of the curve and future ready when it comes to operating in this kind of situation. So there's a flexible working pledge that has been in place globally in the region and also locally, and I'll share that later on. There were also relevant programs around taking care of people as experienced from last year. So we actually have Meatless Fridays, so MEET. So that means giving that free time Friday afternoon for people to catch up on their work and just have a free space without having meetings in their calendars. There are also a lot of engagement program that has been running since last year and done differently to connect better with our people. And that also showed significant improvement in the engagement score. And more importantly, there were also pandemic support, which company has provided to ensure that our people are emotionally supported and physically supported during this time. Yeah. So let's talk through the flexible working pledge. I guess more than the principle around business continuity is at the heart of the workplace of the future. I guess the key consideration there is how do we make it both hybrid and flexible. So let's talk about flexibility first. So globally, Mondelez has given a direction and guidance to all the operating countries around the world. That empathy is key in terms of ensuring that people are able to work in a flexible environment and still remain productive. So that means creating those policies wherein we continue to put our employees that are non-essential in 100% work from home arrangement. and there are key guidance in terms of when we will start resuming back to work, depending on the consistent decrease in the number of cases, for 2 weeks. So in fact, Mondelez in Philippines has been 100% work from home for the office-based employees for 1 year and 2 months, already. And it seems that it's, working, model. Of course, it's not that, it's easy. People also needed to, adjust to that. However, for our frontliners, that means our people in sales and also the people in our manufacturing, site, we're provided sufficient support, also protective equipment, and also testing, to ensure that we keep our workplace, safe and protected for people that are on the site. Now, for Southeast Asia, there are also clear guidelines in terms of how to ensure that there's meetings that are planned between the core hours, and also to be mindful and respectful in ensuring that people have their own personal time, and that there's no judgment, if people aren't able to respond, immediately. I've observed that in being 1 week in the company, how that is being practiced. And even in the email signatures, it's actually clearly stipulated that we are very respectful of people's time in terms of responding to emails. In the Philippines, if we zoom in into how it is, as mentioned, back in 2017, there was already a flexible work policy which allows our employees to work from home 1 or 2 days a week, depending on their function, and that really has enabled also people to be prepared a bit earlier during this situation. Yep. And as mentioned, currently we still remain to be 100% work from home for the non-essential workforce. Yep. And as an organization, this has been in place last year, the Right You movement. So we talk about 3 things here, looking into the well-being of our people, the right body, right mind, and the right purpose. So I guess, as I mentioned, these are all things that, structurally the organization needed to provide to ensure and to give assurance to our people that we care for them while we are in this situation, that their well-being is well taken care of across the different aspects. And in terms of engagement, that is also important. As an organization, we love to connect together, and not having the opportunity to be physically together also meant that we have to be creative and resourceful, connecting with each other online, so getting together while we are apart. So these programs were continued to be implemented in spite of the physical limitations. And I'm also very proud to share with you that when I saw the engagement results, it was quite impressive, to move from 58% to 81%, last year, which meant that, all these programs were effective in terms of engaging the employees in spite of the physical limitation. Yep. Can I think we move to the next slide? Yeah, okay, and this one will be the last one. I think more importantly, there are what we call hygiene factors. So given it's a special situation, so these were all provided for by the company as well, such as the calamity assistance or salary loans. The protective equipment is provided for people that are on site every 2 weeks. There's an antigen test that is required for all our employees to ensure that everyone is safe as they interact. There's a spaces designed for everyone who's interacting on site. The HMO benefits was strengthened as well, including also, more importantly, would be the mental health consultations. Globally, there's also a support and partner of Mondelez to make sure that counseling online through calls, is available to our employees. And more importantly, the role of HR is also equipping the line managers on how to support employees who are going through challenges during the lockdowns. So so in essence, as an organization, what is important when it comes to returning to the office is the principle around business continuity. And that means business continuity should be delivered in a hybrid model, that you become very intentional of ensuring that where it is essential for people to be on site, that the organization provides sufficient support. And at the same time, for those that are non-essential, that we keep them safe and well supported also at home through various well-being programs. Yep, that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Aumentado, for sharing with us the company initiatives of Mondelez when it comes to taking care of employee wellness. I really appreciated the Right to You movement and the flexible working pledge that you mentioned. Our next speaker is Ms. Tracy Ignacio. Ms. Tracy Ignacio is the Chief Operating Officer of KMC Solutions, the country's largest flexible workspace and staff leasing provider. She brings over a decade of professional experience, having gained over 7 years of public accounting experience both here and abroad. She was an external auditor at PricewaterhouseCoopers Philippines, a senior auditor at BDO USA, LLP, and finance manager at Fonality Philippines Incorporated. After joining KMC Solutions as a finance director 7 years ago, she continued her rapid career trajectory and became the VP of Finance after just 8 months. Welcome, Ms. Ignacio.
Hi, Pat. Hi, everybody. Well, thanks for that kind introduction, Pat. And I'm definitely humbled to be among these very distinguished speakers. At this point, they probably mentioned everything there is to say about the topic, and I do agree with most of them. But indulge me for a few minutes to share with you how it was, what's the experience of actually operating almost 50 office floors in 24 different buildings during these very unprecedented times. So the question is, should we return to the office? A very interesting one. And from an office space provider, let me tell you my unbiased answer. Yes. No, but kidding aside though, there are definitely a lot of factors to consider. So one of them is really the nature of work. Are you effective working remotely? Are you effective working from home? Do you have the proper equipment and resources to do the things you need to do? As Sir Nonoy mentioned in his speech earlier, like some industries such as law firms or other professional services and banks, they're not actually able to effectively work from home 100% or work remotely, right? As we all know, it's too hot in the Philippines, and the conduciveness of the environment really plays a factor in the productivity of the people. The next one to consider really is the work culture and collaboration, right? Much has been said, wherein we sacrifice a little bit of that, or not a little bit, a lot of that when we do too much remote working. Virtual meetings happen back to back. Actually, an office mate of mine mentioned he is feeling the Zoom fatigue already, being on back-to-back meetings, following a certain agenda every time, and not being able to actually ask, how are you? It's those conversations that you do in the hallways, going to the restroom or going to your lunch, that you actually miss. As Attorney Alex Cabrera mentioned, mental health is as important as physical health. And lastly, for me, was there's really no one-size-fits-all for everyone here. Your personal circumstances should dictate your answer to that question. There's really no, do you live with seniors? Have you been vaccinated? Do you have kids to assist in homeschooling? And basically, do you have comorbidities? These are just some of the questions about your own personal circumstances that would contribute to that answer, right? According to Ms. Eileen, which of course all of us agree with, is that what remains the top priority is really the health and wellness and the safety of the people, right? So, which brings me to my next slide, which states really the conclusion, what is the future of work? Well, it is very evident that the future of work is hybrid. It is flexibility. As you can see in all these statistics here, this pandemic opened our eyes to certain possibilities that were never there before. Like the that that the company should actually be adapting to these kinds of demands of the employees, wherein flexibility should always be there as to where or when to work. So here in KMC, we are just fortunate enough that we are able to offer that kind of setup to our employees and our clients just the same. In the next slide, you will see that this is what we call the triple H approach, or the hybrid office work setup, wherein people can actually choose to work from home, work near home, or work from their headquarters, or a combination of all three. We are quite lucky that our footprint, having more than 20 locations, right? And our resources allow us to do this. This used to be a luxury, and now it is a necessity. So as in, we go as far as setting up home offices in our employees and people's home, wherein we would bring tables, ergonomic chairs, and high-speed internet in order for them to function really well. We offered KMC Passport, wherein you can access the KMC nearest you. And of course, we remained open in all our headquarters, of course, practicing very strict and effective health and safety protocols. So that's basically it for me. And I know we'll be talking more about this as we open the floor to a lot of questions and very interesting answers from the different speakers.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ignacio. I agree that there's no one size fits all when it comes to the question, should we return to the office? It depends on the company, their nature, and the circumstances of their work. All right, now let's move on to our panel discussion. Okay. I would like to start this discussion with a question about the labor market. Earlier, Mr. Oplas talked about the most glaring impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic on the economy. I would like to ask a question to Mr. Oplas about the labor market. Do you think that there are signs of improvement, since the Philippine Statistics Authority last March reported that the unemployment rate decreased from 17.1% in April 2020 to around 7% last March? What are your thoughts on the labor market?
Yes. In analyzing the labor market, there are two considerations: not only the unemployment, but as well as labor force participation rate. Labor force participation rate means if the labor force participation rate declines, means many people are surrender. So kuna, parang why look for work when you cannot find anyway? So if the Department of Labor surveyor will come to me and say, are you looking for work? I will say no. Because deep inside you say, hindi naman ako makahanap ng trabaho while I look for work. Then the Department of Labor will not consider you as part of the labor force, and therefore you cannot be considered as employed or unemployed. But the problem there is that labor force participation decline is an indicator of a very bad economy. So what happened recently is that in 2020, both the unemployment rate are high and low, and LFPR is low. So this year, the unemployment rate has a little bit declined, but the labor force participation remains high, meaning parami pa ring suko na wag na lang maghanap ng trabaho. So still, the situation is bad.
All right. Are there any remedies for that?
Yeah, I think that the economy, because it's not easy. Like for instance, in the case of the retail company, food retail company, what they did, for the same pay you work from home, but after a few months say, sir, we want to go back to the store. We want to go back to for the same pay with higher risk. Why? For instance, maybe they got bored, they missed the interaction with customers. No, you have to hear feedback from them rather than just a Grab or Lala Move picking up the order. You want to talk to the customers, etc. And maybe they're bored at home. I mean, there are other factors. So Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that, Mr. Oplas. Now moving on to the business aspect of things. How has this current work arrangement and the COVID-19 pandemic affected businesses, especially in terms of the workspace industry and the office sector? Ms. Ignacio?
Well, Pat, there's definitely a shift to a more flexible approach. No, we saw some companies shifting to virtual office for the time being, while most of their employees are working from home. We've seen traditional office space takers before now giving up their offices that are too big for them, that they barely use, to a more flexible approach, such as ours. And of course, companies such as us spend a lot of money on making sure that the health and safety are ensured in the offices. Like, we invested a lot on hospital grade sanitation and the like. So those are the shifts in how we operated as a workspace provider.
All right. Thank you for that. Um, how will the new physical workspace change as a result of the pandemic? Will offices decrease in size because of staggered work shifts and alternate work schedules? Anyone? Anyone can answer. Attorney Cabrera, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that will necessarily be the case, but there's also opportunity there to provide a better workspace environment
Mhm.
for people. We actually need these kinds of flexible office space arrangements, such as that offered by KMC, because as you know, what happened during the pandemic, the lessors really pounded on the lease contracts and wouldn't give way to the non-use by the lessee. Actually, if you ask me, there's sufficient legal basis for this lease to be grossly discounted when during the time that it wasn't used. Because there's a physical impossibility, and well, there's legal impossibility as well, because the government placed this quarantine rules. But the lessors, they're so inflexible on that. So I think all the lessees are wisening up, and they're only going to retain office spaces that they would absolutely need. In fact, even with this reduced office spaces, I still believe that this is in excess of what companies need. But I guess we're not too courageous about reducing it really drastically at one time, and we'll probably review the performance and before we reduce it some more, because the real working environment now is office plus the home offices, that kind of network. And after the pandemic is over, it's going to be not work from home really, but work from anywhere. And
Mhm.
this is going to be supported by the digital transformation that will continue to happen. And if you're working from anywhere, then you don't really need an office space. But as I said, a common working space is needed, even on a rotational basis, because you just cannot hope to develop culture, without this common working environment. You cannot develop culture over Zoom or over Gmeet. You cannot develop culture over calls. You'll be just an acquaintance, but there will be no intense relationship, or lasting relationship that's going to be built on the basis of that kind of relationship. So I would say common working space equals stronger relationship, human relationship.
Do you think that companies and offices will invest in collaboration technology and collaboration software and touchless technology moving forward?
There's no choice. There's no choice. It's not a question of whether they should invest or not. They should invest, and it's just a matter of time before everybody gets there. It's not going to be a competitive edge. It's going to be a necessity, and I guess that this is going to be an issue probably with the smaller players in the MSME space, whether they would have enough money for that kind of capex today, but they will certainly be going there as well. Yeah.
All right. I'd like to address this question, next question to Ms. Aumentado. Teams are siloed nowadays in the digital work world. So that means that teams are collaborating less with other teams. So that means that there's also a decrease in innovation. So as leaders, how can leaders foster an environment of innovation and social capital given this reality?
Okay, so maybe I can share two perspectives there. So one is, the hardware, and the other one is the software. So one is that there's significance also in terms of ensuring that you have the right platforms in your organization to ensure that, collaboration happens effectively across different, teams that are remotely arranged or separated, at this time. So we've seen many, organizations, moving towards, Microsoft Teams, for example, as a great collaboration tool. And there are also many other, tools, out there that allows people to, work together on an innovation. So, for example, even for my experience, we've explored different, tools and running workshops using different, different platforms, so such as Mentimeter for engagement, or even using other workshop platforms as well. Now, I think more importantly, that goes alongside with the hardware or the collaboration tool, it is
I think you froze, Ms. Aumentado. Okay. All right. So I think I should just continue on my next question. Attorney Cabrera mentioned earlier that remote work at the beginning of the pandemic sounded like a luxury, but now it's a
correct.
necessity.
Yes,
And
yes.
okay,
Yeah.
would you like to continue? Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah. Okay, so I'm not sure if maybe connectivity has cut in there, but I think it's also a reality that people become compassionate as well. When we have glitch, but having personally experienced working with remote teams in other countries, as well, it didn't stop organizations, to innovate, together. So I think the key there is having the right mindset, and for our leaders in terms of agility and working together to ensure that everyone is able to participate in co-creation without the necessity of always having to be physically together. Of course, it's the best way to collaborate is to do it physically.
Yeah.
But given the remote setup, it doesn't also stop us to deliver quality outputs and outcomes.
All right. Thank you for that, Ms. Aumentado. Like I was mentioning earlier, Attorney Cabrera mentioned that this remote work setup sounded like a luxury during the early part of the pandemic, but now it's a necessity. All of you also mentioned digital exhaustion, and it's a very real and unsustainable concern. In fact, even the CEO of Zoom, Eric Yuan, mentioned in a Wall Street Journal article that he experiences Zoom fatigue. Given this, how can leaders tackle such issues in a way that still keeps remote workers engaged? Anyone? Would anyone would like to answer this?
Yeah, well, I guess go back to the basics, and number one, respect personal space. The problem with this virtual environment is that there's no real sense of time. It ventures into your lunch break, it ventures into your dinner, it takes away from you the usual breaks. And because everything is virtual. You know, in a physical environment, you go to the other room, you say something, you engage in a minute, and that's all it takes, because all the verbal gestures, all the facial and all the physical gestures are there, and you communicate quite effectively that way. But in a virtual environment, everything needs to be communicated verbally, and a lot of that can be lost in translation if you don't, you know, insert there the right sentences, the right words. And so it takes so much time. What could be a short conversation, physical conversation, you need to set up a separate meeting for that short conversation in this virtual environment. And that's what makes it quite exhausting, because you have your long meetings and then you have your short meetings. Every conversation is a meeting. And so what you can do with that is, you know, you can stick to chats, you can stick to calls, and you can have discretion on what really needs to have a virtual meeting, or what could be set up by way of just, you know, short chat. The respect for the time of our people should be brought back. It should be, in fact, be given priority. I mean, don't go too early, don't go too late. Um, Discuss the breaks, but respect those breaks as well. You know, because you can discuss this as a policy and then you don't respect it, and then people are just back to their own virtual devices until they begin to feel that there's no fulfillment in the job that they're doing. Um, Apart from that, you know, the physical rotation is really needed, because you won't have too much of that Zoom fatigue if it's not a monotonous activity. But if you're on Zoom every day, every time, then that will really give fatigue. So you need to be physically present. I know that innovation can happen even in a virtual environment, not as good as in a physical environment, where the exchange can be really dynamic, and the exchange can really be heartfelt and can really be spontaneous. You know, in a virtual environment, you can't just butt in, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
you need to let the other
yeah,
person finish, and then sometimes you just don't butt in because you might think that your idea is silly, or you don't agree with what was said anyway. So you see, there's a lot of downer in creativity in a virtual environment. I think it's too theoretical to say that we can achieve it in the same quality and the same effectivity as a physical environment. But certainly you cannot rely on a purely physical environment as well, you know, given what we have experienced and what we have learned. So it should be a hybrid, agile environment, and I think even when you're innovating, you have to go to a hybrid model as well.
Thank you for those inputs, Attorney Cabrera. I agree that there are pros and cons when it comes to virtual interactions, such as the lack of spontaneity, like you mentioned. Miss Ignacio, I believe you'd like to add to this
Correct.
conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned Pat, Zoom and Zoom fatigue. No, in fact, actually, Zoom is our client. They started with us at the start of the pandemic last March 2020. Imagine the challenges we had to go through on recruiting, keeping the employees engaged during those times. Our people and culture team definitely adapted to this challenges of actually working remotely and using Zoom to do so. That's why the answer here really is hybrid setup. Wherein there are days where you are on Zoom meetings, you're at home doing that in isolation, but there are days where you go to the office with a purpose of collaboration, of going with, of meeting some of your office mates. I mean, after 14 months of the pandemic, I'm pretty sure everyone knows exactly how to take care of themselves already, right? You don't have to mention repeatedly your social distancing, wear masks, and all. You know exactly how to take care of yourself already. So, practicing within those bounds and still having the collaboration and creativity while in the office and making the most out of it would be a good way to really combat these challenges in mental health issues too, right? So definitely, as mentioned earlier, there's no one size fits all, and the hybrid setup is a good approach to go through with.
Mhm. All right. Thank you for that, Miss Ignacio. I'd like to talk a little bit more about the hub and spoke you mentioned earlier in your presentation, because there's an emergence of, the bike culture here in Manila and other parts of the Philippines. And I feel that this is the market that would benefit the most from the hub and spoke. So how did this concept come about?
Yeah, so basically, I mean, as for the disadvantages from Sir Nonoy's presentation earlier, it's repeated, but the disadvantage of going to an office is the commute.
Yeah.
So our footprint as KMC being in different central business districts of Metro Manila, Iloilo, Cebu, Clark, allowed us that possibility of our clients and our employees as well to just go to the nearest KMC office nearest them without going through the challenges of the transportation, and actually being able to work effectively in a remote setup. Because when you say remote setup, it doesn't have to be your home. It could be an office near you. It could be like the coffee shop near you. Whatever environment inspires you. Like for me, this environment inspires me, so I'm here right now. And this is not a virtual background. So I
Wow.
mean, those things. It's really your circumstances that will dictate where you should work and when you should work.
All right. Thank you for that, Ms. Ignacio. I'd like to address this next question to Ms. Aumentado. Should companies take more responsibility for their employees' home offices? That is to say, should they give allowances for internet broadband connection, or should they provide for ergonomic chairs if they could afford to?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it really depends upon, each organization, because essentially, while it is quite clear that, safety and well-being is always at the forefront, or a key consideration, to any, business. It's a leadership decision in terms of what kind of infrastructure are you willing to provide, such support to your employees. Some organizations have flexible, allowances that doesn't limit the use of those allowances to a specific purpose only. So, for example, if some organizations provide, they say, transportation allowance, but in the absence of having to physically, move or be mobile coming from home to the office, it actually can be offset, and be used, let's say, for additional costs for electricity or connectivity, as such. Some organizations I've seen also that they've allowed their employer, or the employers allowed, the office, let's say, chairs to be on loan to their employees. So instead of having an extra cost, it's just actually being resourceful and making sure that what is available in the office can also be made available at home. So so in essence, there are many different ways to for companies to support their employees, and I guess this is where leadership and creativity comes into play, whether it will be an additional cost or being resourceful in maximizing your assets, to support your employees. There's just really like no one way to do that.
Thank you for that, Ms. Aumentado. Ms. Ignacio, would you like to add anything?
Really, at this point, we just have to offer and adapt to what our employees need, right? In KMC, for our employees specifically, we offer SWAT, which is like a shuttle service from their homes to our offices. We offer subsidized dorms, which are actually situated near our KMC offices.
Yeah.
And for our clients as well, what I mentioned earlier is if home is really where they should be and where they really want to work, we set up KMC Casa, which provides for the desks, the ergonomic chairs, the high-speed internet, the resources they actually need to be productive. So really, we adapt to the actual needs of the employees and the clients.
All right, that's great to know, Ms. Ignacio. At this point, we will be answering a few questions from the audience. Let's check to see which questions came in. Okay, all right. Okay. Here's a question. Will vaccination be mandatory in future workplaces? How about Mr. Oplas? What do you think?
Yeah, I think that as I think it should be I should be whether it should be left to companies whether they want the employees to be vaccinated or not. It should not be government because first of all, those vaccines have no approval anywhere around the world. These are just all of them are under emergency use authority, so they have no approval yet in terms of long-term safety and efficacy. So to make it mandatory for everyone is not good. Maybe it's up to the companies. Well, the company will say we want all of our employees to be vaccinated. If you do not want to be vaccinated, then you can get out. And say, okay, I'm going out, but it should not be mandatory for everyone.
Now, that's a good point. Thank you, Mr. Oplas. Next question for Ms. Ignacio. What do your clients say about the Triple H approach? Are they saying this approach has benefited them a lot during the pandemic? Has KMC Solutions gained more clients in the past months?
Well, it goes without saying that particular product was brought about due to the needs of the clients. It was really a response to their actual needs. So yeah, the answer is definitely yes to that. Since flexibility is really one of our core values, we definitely practice what we preach there. Thus, the Triple H approach, no, whichever fits them. And what was the other question? If it was for
Are they saying? Are they saying this approach has benefited them a lot during the pandemic?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, of course they did. And if we gained a lot of clients from it, I would say there's still there are industries that are still thriving despite the pandemic. So there were additional clients of ours in industries such as logistics, healthcare. So we were able to service them as based on their needs.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Ignacio. Question: how should organizations build expectations between employees as they return to the office, whether in a full or hybrid manner? Anyone?
Yeah, but I think we're all free riders in this pandemic in the sense that we're compelled to react to it and we're compelled to do things differently because of the pandemic. The real issue begins when the pandemic blows over in a post-pandemic world where all we have is us and our own devices. And I think that this is where the leaders should come in. This is where leadership becomes very important. In order to build expectations from employees, number one, it should be leadership by example. If you're asking people to go to the office, you should be in the office yourself. Number two, you must continue to show them that you care for them. You cannot ask them to go to the office if there's no safe public transport, and you just say take public transport. We don't care whether it's safe or not. So you can't go that way. You cannot build expectations and support that way. Number three, take advantage of the very good communication tools that we have. Every person that goes to the office solicit feedback and let this feedback be known to the rest of the employees. Did they enjoy working together again and physically again in the office, and what were the advantages that they experienced working physically again? And I guess this feedback needs to be spread in order to be contagious as well to others. And then I guess it's really important also to rechannel the staff benefits, because those benefits that were given before, they need to be rechanneled now to support a partially work from home environment, and probably even to support a safer transportation to the office.
Thank you for that, Attorney Cabrera. Anyone else? All right. So that's the end of our Q&A with the audience. Thank you very much, audience, for your questions. I would like our speakers to share their closing remarks before we end this session. Maybe we can start with Ms. Ignacio, and then Ms. Aumentado, Mr. Oplas, and then Attorney Cabrera. Ms. Ignacio?
All right. Yeah, thanks, Pat. So, I mean, what has the last 14 months taught us? It instilled a lot of fear in a lot of us, right? The fear of the unknown, the fear of getting the virus and all. But I think it's now time to actually arm yourselves with, with the right tools and the right things in order to get out there and start living already. It's been too long, and it has its effects already in our economy, as Sir Noli mentioned. As long as you know how to take care of yourself, you make yourself healthy, you have options of flexible work or hybrid work or what have you. I think it's time to start that now and end the 14 months of fear that we've been through.
Right. Thank you for that. Ms. Aumentado?
Yep, I think a couple of things that I'd like to share. I think one is all about leadership. In a time of uncertainty, as we navigate the crisis, leadership plays a very important role in ensuring that organizations have the relevant and the right policies and tools and infrastructure in place to ensure that people remain productive, whilst at the same time their well-being and safety is well taken care of, to deliver business outcomes. The second is all about personal responsibility, because as individuals, of course we have to balance both our obligations at home, plus also the work that we need to deliver for our organization. So it is also upon us to ensure that we continue to be vigilant in terms of our own health, and safety, following the protocols, keeping ourselves fit at all times, and maximizing the tools, the infrastructure, the policies, and the support that our organizations provide to ensure that we are able to be at our best, even if we are in this situation.
Thank you, Ms. Aumentado. Mr. Oplas?
Yeah, Shai, can I have the annex? Yeah, next page. Yeah, next page. Okay, I want to focus on the experience of the popcorn chain as well as the food food retail chain. The popcorn chain, they suffered 40% decline in revenues because of the closure of all cinemas and the disallowance, the prohibition of children below 18 years old to go into malls. The second is that food retail chain explained that when IATF just sort of arbitrarily decide, okay, GCQ, CQ, whatever CQ, when they decide to announce only one day instead of 3 days. So this retail chain is losing hundreds of thousands of pesos with just 1 or 2 days delayed. My bottom line here is that government is playing God. Okay, it decide whether who are essential, who are not, who should go continue growing, who should go bankrupt. Government is feeling like infallible. No, government is full of fallible men and women. So ultimately, we should return to the office. Our kids should return to the school. The religious should return to the churches and open up the economy. And a lot of the policies being done by the government is mainly the lockdown. I think it's 80% political science, 10% military science, only about 10% medical science. So it's a lot of politics and a little about medicine and in clinical studies about all these mandatory work from home, mandatory lockdown. The policies of government are based. Thank you.
Right. Thank you for your thoughts, Mr. Oplas. Attorney Cabrera?
Yeah, thank you, Pat. I think that what we should not do is to waste the lessons from this pandemic. Um, when the global leaders were asked during a survey pre-pandemic, they all pointed to a possible financial crisis. No one pointed to a pandemic. No one heeded the warnings. But if the pandemic is a tool, then it certainly brought to surface, serious issues about the environment, society, or social issues, and governance as well. And so when we revert to our office and continue working again, whether in a hybrid model or flexible model, let us not lose sight of the more important things about ESG, the triple P's of business. It's not only about profit, not only about people, but also about the planet. So ESG and a stockholder or stakeholder centric business model should be in place. Well, I think insofar as the leaders are concerned, it actually all falls on their shoulders. Because the way that leaders behave and think will be the way their organizations will behave and think, and this will have an impact on their people. And I would say that in order to be the right leader for the future, that leader should not only stick to an agile business model that can cope with the digital times. It should also be a leadership of understanding and kindness. Because the truth of the matter is, regardless of whatever profession you're in, regardless of your age, we are all taking baby steps in this pandemic. We're all trying to learn something new every day. And I think that we're all children in that respect, trying to survive and learn from this pandemic. Let not the lessons that we learned get wasted. Let us get everybody included. Let us practice sustainable practices, and let us always remember all our stakeholders, especially those who needs to be included in our successes.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Attorney Cabrera. Thank you very much to all our speakers for sharing their insights today. It's been a very fruitful discussion. Thank you to Attorney Cabrera, Mr. Oplas, Ms. Aumentado, and Ms. Ignacio. Many thanks too to KMC Solutions, our partner, for making this session possible, as well as to our media partner, the Philippine Star. Of course, thank you to our audience for sharing your time with us today. I hope you can also join us tomorrow and on Thursday for Business World's virtual economic forum themed Digital Economy PH towards a faster economic recovery. Registration is still ongoing. Do follow Business World's social media pages and be updated on our next projects. Again, this is Patricia Mirasol, and this has been Business World Insights. Good afternoon.
Now is the time to rethink the way we work and occupy spaces. Business owners are asking themselves new questions like, does my current office setup give me the flexibility I need to provide for the ever-changing needs of my business and employees? Can I offer my employees the ability to work near home? Can I significantly reduce operating costs by moving towards a distributed team model? As the leading flexible office solutions provider in the Philippines, KMC Solutions is able to provide convenient and adaptable options to enable distributed teams and provide work-near-home benefits to your team. The KMC Passport is a multifunctional, flexible workspace solution that allows you and your employees to work in any of KMC's 24 locations. With 4 customizable packages tailor-fitted to the adaptable needs of your business: KMC Passport, HQ Plus Hub, Virtual Office Plus Hub, HQ Plus Hub Plus Home, affectionately known as Triple H. Maybe you already have an office, but now want to give your employees the freedom to work closer to their home. The KMC Passport will give your employees unrestricted access to freely utilize our hot desks across 24 co-working hubs located around Metro Manila, Cebu, Clark, and Iloilo. With the peace of mind of our lightning-fast, never-go-down network with up to 1.5 gigabits per second throughput. Are you still utilizing your current office space at full capacity? If not, perhaps it's time to move your core operations to one of our fully serviced, move-in ready, flexible private offices and pair it with one of our KMC Passports. With our HQ Plus Hub option, you get the best of both worlds: a fully managed, secure private office, plus access to KMC's vast network of co-working spaces across the country. Instantly set up your HQ while giving your workforce the power to choose where to work. Or maybe you're looking to go fully remote, but still need an address for business registration. The Virtual Office Plus Hub option is perfect for when you don't need an HQ. With our suite of virtual office services, you can make use of our prestigious KMC business addresses and have us handle your business registration for you with the added bonus of a KMC passport that gives them access to our co-working spaces when they need it. Then again, why not have it all with Triple H, HQ plus Hub plus Home, our all-in-one blended model that can do it all. HQ, for fully furnished private office spaces for your main base of operations. Hub, for utilizing KMC's passport to get to the co-working hub closest to you. And finally, Home, delivering you the ideal workspace setup coupled with business-grade internet right at your employee's home. There's a more efficient way to occupy spaces. Give you and your employees true flexibility and ensure productivity with no downtime with the new KMC Passport. Reach out to us for a free consultation to learn how you can flexibly work with our KMC Passport solutions.